call the meeting to order. Roll call vote.
Ms.
Or roll
Milcount?
call attendance. No. I'm here, kind of.
Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Milcount?
Here.
Mr. Olson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Erkins?
Here.
Mr. Rastegar?
Here.
All right, changes or additions to the agenda. I think you all saw that we put out an amended agenda. We added the May 5th meeting notes approval. We want to make sure that we have those accurate and prepared and ready for the meeting, and we do. So that is the amended agenda. And we also moved a few items from other business to the meeting in June. So those are the amendments. I'd entertain a motion for approval of the amended agenda.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Agenda is amended. Chairman's remarks. So as we know, May 5th, we completed an executive session interviews for the executive director position, and the vote to give me delegate authority to me to make that decision after that meeting. I thought about it over the weekend, and that Monday contacted and communicated with Cody Lund to offer the position and negotiate terms. And so I wanted to say that we reached those negotiated terms of the agreement. So Cody Lund is officially the new hire for executive director. And then along with that, since we have a new ED, fairly new board member, some new staff, I think that now is kind of a good time to look at maybe doing some board training in the summer.
Sure, Madam Chair. I think we can do that. We can do a kind of a board training for obviously the board. I guess that's self-explanatory. You know, we're kind of, you're talking about open meetings and public records and those.
All the legal stuff.
You know, we can spend an exciting half hour or hour before one of our scheduled meetings and undertake that. And I used to do those with Brian Kay from the AG's office, but he's moved on, and I don't know that they've got a kind of a new sort of point person, but we'll, hopefully it won't be just me. I'll find somebody else to liven it up a little bit. From our office or elsewhere. And then maybe actually I guess it makes sense. It's Cody's is or will be our new person. You know, we can do kind of separately. I can kind of separately kind of a staff training, which for Cody and the new folks as well, which are which will be focused on quite the same stuff we're looking at here. And a lot of that is more some of the technical things on responding to public records requests and things that thankfully the board doesn't have to deal with, but the staff does. So we can kind of do that more or less simultaneously and whatever time. And also I think it's important to, well, we still have Pat to get Pat's insight both, frankly, from the board training and on the staff training to make certain that we don't lose, not that Pat's going to move to Mars, but that we don't lose all that institutional knowledge eventually.
So Cody, yeah, you
Around for a few months.
can take over all the fun stuff. Like I know elections, that doesn't happen all the time and all that stuff. Perfect. Okay, thanks, Mike. So just let us know when it makes sense to put it on the agenda, and we'll do, kind of like that work session ahead of time, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what you think. Just kind of refresh.
Is this election day?
It is election day, but there's.
How
no
are
election.
your odds?
I would say 100 to 101, right? I think we're doing
101.
pretty good. Yeah. So it's nice
Congratulations.
not to have an election.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. All right. Okay, so on to approval of the minutes. We've got two. We've got the regular meeting minutes from April 19th. Entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we are on to the special meeting minutes of May 5th. They entertain a motion to approve those.
So
I'll
moved.
move.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All of that is done. All right, on to the monthly activity and financial report at Anne Marie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
As noted, we don't, yes, there is an election today. The good news is that our two board members have no opposition. So all I have to do is wait for the actual county to certify the election, and then I will certify in turn. So that'll be the 26th, I believe is the day. So
Madam Chair, Pat, did they have to get the signatures and file when they file for office?
Mhm.
correct.
I think
Yes,
it-
and all that, I actually hand walked that paperwork to the election office and delivered it all. So they just, the good news is they didn't have to get, well, they may have had treasurers that didn't have to do anything. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process at this point.
Friends and family, or did you actually go out?
Neighborhood, all within the boundaries of the district, so.
Yes, they had to do all of that fun stuff, so. Quick update from ICA. Ryan said they couldn't be here anyway because of they're trying to deal with some last minute construction and things, but the temporary occupancy permit is on schedule for next week. They had some electrical panel that was on its way. It made it. The training pool heater, those components were not correct, so that arrives on Saturday. Shouldn't delay anything on the temporary certificate of occupancy. Landscape will finalize the second week of June, but it's not required for the temporary permit. They remain on budget. Very best guess is that Nick and he will push opening, the soft opening to May 30th, the day after Memorial Day, a little bit, a week later than they wanted. But that's where they're at. Targeting a grand opening event some kind of mid-June. So we'll keep you informed on that. July and August championship meets are on target. The logos are on their way. And then as always, call or email. So everything appears to be moving forward. Tentatively, I have a site visit out there for Wednesday afternoon, but I'll wait to hear from Ryan on that. But I was going to take a run out just to see what it's like. So.
I know I drove by there, I think yesterday, and it looks like they're getting the landscaping in the front done. It looks like sidewalks and stuff are being paved and poured, and so it's starting to really look like it's coming together.
When I was out there a few weeks ago, there was partial concrete down. They hadn't started the actual asphalt yet, but they had started the concrete, and they had some of the site work on the landscaping had been started. So sounds like it's, and I get pictures every day from the construction report. So they had some, a couple of their surge tanks, the sealant that was used was apparently the wrong sealant. And so now they have to drain the surge tanks, separate them, clean the sealant, and reseal them with the appropriate stuff. But they indicated it should be done by this weekend. So hiccups, nothing we do is easy, right? Couple of updates. Chase and I have been meeting with a variety of interested parties. CWI, we met with Nick Miller, just to go over some highlights of the programming that they had in their photos when they were here a month ago, talking about the Performing Arts Center, how that fit into the scope of what the district currently does. We talked a little bit about other options that they might be willing to consider. Nick went back to their team. We had a follow-up call last week that included some of the other principles of the project and talk through again what the district's parameters are, what we can bring to the table of projects that we're working on now with ICA and how that fits in within the parameters of the district legislation, our statutory provisions. They want to get together again. They were on board with other options and just talked about what those other options are, some site plan and development, all of which nothing definitive. These are all very high level. What can we do? And how does that fit the purpose of the district? They want to do another follow-up meeting this week.
Madam Chair, who is they?
Tommy Alquist, Nick Miller, the architects and the engineers.
What about his usual lawyer, Wardle?
No, Jeff wasn't part of
Thank you.
again, at this point, it's just, again, it's walking through. In fact, Jeff was the attorney that on East when we did that project, so I know Jeff. And at this point, it's just, what are they thinking? What are we thinking? And we're just walking through again what the statutory provisions are about our involvement. So I wouldn't even say it's jello at this point. So nothing is gelled at all. So more to follow on that one. And then as a result of the article that came out a month ago, we've had several other requests. Again, saying, hey, can we ask the district for money to participate in a variety of projects? And my response to each of them has been exactly the same, to say, here's our statutory provisions. Here's the mission of the district currently. Here's the process on our website if you want to move forward. We've had meetings with a few of those folks, just again to delineate walk through what projects they'd be interested in, how our statutory provision may or may not fit within that. And again, no other follow-up since. So it's like I said, these are inquiries only and explanation of what we can do and how we can do it. So, but there is a lot of interest. So. This is representative last month. So we did find a new executive. The board did hire a new executive director. Several members of the board, Senator attended the Chamber Leadership Conference. Myself, Cody, Matt Williams, who's one of our event managers, and Anthony Manzanares, who's our assistant operations manager. We all attended the IAVM Region 4 conference in Portland. That was very good. Back of the house tours of the convention center, performing arts. I'm really proud of what we do. They had a really nice expansion done a few years ago, and again, it looks really good. Myself, Cody, and Nikki Keith from accounting will be attending the IAVM Venue Connect in Pittsburgh in July. If any of you are interested, please let me know as soon as you can, so that we can get things in process for you. Allie also, I was putting this together and was remiss that Allie, who's also the chair of the sales consortium, we weren't sure if she was going to go for sure or not. It sounds like she's definitely going now after all. And she will be chairing some of the presentations actually that will take place. So we're excited to have that. This was the Idaho Youth Ranch Gala for 700. Again, I always like to highlight some of the things that have gone on and how cool the room changes. I mean, we've talked about new ceiling structure and that sort of thing, but I think it dresses up very nicely for all sorts of things. This is the Boys and Girls Club, 1200. I think it was 1160 actually, so just shy of 1200. Very successful. Again, just a great event. The numbers continue to look very, very positive. Don't know really much more I can say than that. For the Aquatic Center, one of the things that Anne Marie and I have talked about is the lease payments that will change effective the first of the month, and what the increase in basically the loan value is. It's doubled from the original agreement. So anyway, that's something that's going to have an impact, I think, on how they forecast out. But the lease payments, anyway, the new lease payments should go into effect the first of the month. So that number will actually start, the revenue side will start increasing pretty dramatically. Number of events continue to look strong. Considering where we are in the year, I think that it continues to resonate though the way we're managing events, and the fact that we don't have to do as many events to generate more revenue and still get to reach our goals of attendance. So Anne Marie and I were talking right before this, and she'll probably have a little more of an update, but the way April ended and May started, We had, we were over budget last month because of the number of local events and the galas. And we're taking a look at the May impact on that, but we've got an event coming in this week that it's a 2-day event and it'll generate the most revenue out of any single event in the history of the center. It's well in excess of 300,000 just for a couple of day events. So lots of food, lots of beverage, lots of AV. This is a group that, because of our size, they're going to have to move to Texas probably. So anyway, we're trying to do what we can to get that additional space. But anyway, the numbers where we are are looking very promising for the remainder of the year. The percentage change, again, occupancy in the ER on hotels. It's interesting that we've seen another decline in demand, and don't know that there's, again, it's nothing precipitous and nothing that's necessarily concerning, but we are taking a look. We're watching it. Still could be a little bit of the remnants of where we had been with the out-of-state demand coming off of COVID a year ago, but now we're starting to get, pardon me, get back into that normalcy of events last year when we really started getting crazy busy. So again, rates are still, pardon me, remaining strong. Just something we're watching at this point. I've talked with Carrie, I've talked with a couple of hoteliers to see if there's anything, any shift in their demand. The hotel's actually still doing really well. The downtown core hotels are doing really well, both in rate and demand. So don't know if it's the highway traffic, and that's where I have to start making some assumptions, which is dangerous. I know what assumptions are, but if the demand in the core is still strong, then obviously it's that highway traffic, or maybe some smaller groups that just didn't decide to meet it. That again this year that didn't have any impact on us. So
I was wondering, can you tell if it's leisure or business?
I can't at this point, and like you said, particularly for the downtown hotels, I can start trying to extrapolate out the group there, and I don't know by hotel. I mean, we group hotels as close to the downtown that it helped impact conventions, and then there's like 10 properties in that group, but it's a select group, and then compare that to the rest of the market. That's why I'm assuming that it has to do with a lot of the highway properties. But what's ironic is we're starting to get more growth along the highway of more properties. So again, is that and some have actually opened in Canyon County that I found out. So don't know if Idaho Center is pulling more into the Canyon County market. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions at this point, but I haven't put my arms around it quite yet. So we're watching and we're asking the questions. So Allie and her team, again, we continue to see strong growth in future years. Trying to look at the Shriner, the Ladies of the Nile that are coming in next year. They did a big site visit. They're coming in June in 24, and there were probably 15, I want to say about 15 women on this site tour, and they were fun. It was nice to meet them, and they're looking forward to coming here. So that's one of those few events that we're sharing actually with the arena. So they're going to be doing a lot of their meals here and a lot of their gala type things next door at the arena. So, but we continue to look strong for next year. And 25, we're having some internal arm wrestling over the spring of 2025. There's already several weekend dates that potentially have conventions that want to come in and conflict is a strong word, but where we have a lot of our annual galas, March, April, May on the weekends, high demand for local galas, but that's also, we've got some high demand for some pretty nice pieces of convention business. So we're going to have to either have new space built by then or a little more arm wrestling internally. So we'll see who's stronger. Will it be Ally or Stacy? So. I talk about this every month that, in fact, I'm not sure we should just pull this slide because we talk about it so much. We just can't get into that citywide very much. So, you know, we know where our bread and butter markets are, and that's where we're targeting, and that's where we're successful. So.
Madam Chair and the members of the board, the center had another record revenue month for April. When we get to the utilization, we'll talk a little bit about how that impacts May. But our cash investments decreased to fund the aquatics. We funded $1.1 million for the aquatics, so that leaves us with a cash balance of about 22 million. This month, because of rising interest rates, we're trying to draw down our checking balances. So we had some money extra, I won't call it extra, but money in the center that we were able to draw down. So we made no transfers to the center last month. They'll start back up again this month. And again, the aquatics was the construction draw. We have one more draw on that. We have a undispersed commitment of 1.1 million, and that'll be later this month. And then the rest will kick back over to the aquatics for any final payments. One of the things that is a organization we're taking a look at is how we measure labor productivity across all of our software, and how can we pull all of that information together to give us better information for management. Because we use Paylocity for payroll, we use Ungerbach for our events, and then we're now using Questica for our budgeting. So this is part of the investment that we've made in our software to allow us to get the data to be able to manage better and to improve our processes. And then the Questica budget implementation is ongoing. It will be up and running for this new budget cycle, so we're excited. We've got the operating part up. There's also a capital planning part of that we have a 20-year plan. This just makes it more visible. There's a transparency piece to it as well that we can set it so that if people want to go, like especially the board, if you want to go in and look at information, we can give you access so that you can go in and look at those charts and graphs. And then there is a payroll part of it that also merges in with Questica to help us with our payroll budgeting at the end during the process as well. So our combined revenue and expense, the Boise Center, like I said, almost $1 million in favorable budget variance for revenues over expenses. The district $600,000 favorable. So in total, we're $1.5 million favorable variance to budget. For the district, for the year, we're $122,000. Revenues $122,000 over budget. Our expenses are under budget right now due to our timing. And as I said, our transfers are under budget for the center. But you can see that we are having a great year for tax revenues. Our trends for the Boise Center. This is our 6th month out of the past 8 record, the top 10 record revenues. We ended the month at 937,000. There was one event that was for 105,000 that usually happens in May that was in April, and we're seeing that when I talk about the forecast for May. That's a little lower than historical, and it's because of that movement of the revenue from one month to the other. But as you can see for 2023 in the bar graph, that we're significantly ahead of 2022 and 19. Oh, and one thing, so when I did put together a 12-month rolling, our 12-month rolling forecast is temporary too. So looks like we're gonna have a great year. On our utilization, you can see that for the blue in May, which is, we're almost halfway through, the occupancy utilization is low compared to historical. One of that is having one of those events switch to April, but also we're dark. We have the last week of the month is dark. And it was a conscious decision. There were usually the fill-in events that are small. They wanted to fill in the last part of May, but they aren't. When we're dark, there's a certain dollar amount of revenue that we need to have to justify having an event in-house. And those events that came in just weren't of a large enough revenue size for us to feel like we wanted to bring our team back in. They've worked very hard over the last several months, as obvious from the record revenues. And so this last week of May will give them a break over Memorial Day weekend. But as you can see from the rest of them, July, August, September are over last year. October will fill in. Just looking at the budget, need to, as the orders and space gets tied up and things get nailed down, that blue should go up, and we would expect it to be at or above prior year.
Emery,
Yes.
just one other thing on that too. We've got some capital projects that have to be done. There's some piping in the back hallway and in the kitchen or the kitchen area that is fairly critical at this point. And we had that 1 week to get things done. There's a couple other projects that we have going in East as well. So as Anne Marie alluded to, it didn't make sense to put those, again, the pipe project isn't something we really want to put off much longer anyway. So the decision was made that we wouldn't book anything that last week. It was a little shaky to start with. And again, the smaller groups, it just didn't make enough sense to push the project to an unknown date. As you can tell, the rest of the year is very busy. And so it was a conscious, part of it was a conscious decision. I said, we've got to get this done, and in order to do it, we've got to shut the building down. So there's a lot of internal work that's going to get done that last week. It's just, we're not having a lot of it. We're not having any events, and so we can get those done. So I want to make sure there's some clarification there. Pardon me. As to, again, we're running up against timing to get capital projects done. December is the next window, and that's when we're going to get East done as much as we can. So.
On the aquatic center, again, rent $7,800. The rent will increase, will begin January 1st. We also, part of the lease agreement requires hotel room tracking and then financial reporting quarterly. So we're starting to set up meetings to meet with them. Those were not items that were nailed down in the lease per se. So we need to get some of the details of that nailed down since we're almost finished. Again, we have one last draw in June for May and the 1.1 million of the uncommitted funds. And I just wanted to show a little bit or talk about our investments and what we've been doing with Clearwater Advisors. So our book yield to maturity right now is almost 3%. So that includes all of the investments that we've held. Our year-to-date yield is 1.235. The effective maturity is a 1.2. So what that means is we have some investments that are maturing in 3 years, some in less than 1 year. So the average is 1.2 years. We keep that portfolio fairly short, just because we don't know when another project will come up and we'll need that, the money. We do keep We're planning to keep about $1 million in our bank balances. Our client analysis credit is 1.65%. And so we get 1.65% to offset our fees, and it takes about $1 million to offset our fees at the 1.65%, and that beats our year-to-date yield. So as long as our client analysis credits over our year-to-date yield, I will leave the money in there because I make more money offsetting my fees. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I have a go back. Pardon me. There was a slide that we were working on, Mary Michael was putting together, and there had been a question after the special board meeting about why our agenda was not still up on the website. There was an inquiry that said, hey, it's Monday and, you know, I'm going back and I don't see the agenda or anything about the special board meeting. And so I wanted to address that. I had asked Mary Michael, she does a great job in monitoring our website. And so the meeting notice fulfills the Idaho meeting law that's on there. And again, I'm sorry, there's not a slide for this, but we have, if you look at the scheduling on the website for future meetings, it has all the meetings for the rest of the year, which make sure that we live up to the open meetings law, that the meetings are posted. The agendas then go out normally a week in advance, required 5 days, but we try to get out there a week. And long story short is at 12:01 a.m. following the board meeting, the agenda comes off, and then within the next 5 to 7 business days, and it puts everything up there, the video, the minutes that were approved from the prior meeting, and then any other pertinent information. And so there's a small window there after the board meeting that the information comes off. And so I just want to make sure that it was known that everything had been posted appropriately. Everything is being posted appropriately. We're paying attention to that. But in the case of post meeting is when again, everything comes off for a couple of days and then it's all put back up. So anyway, I just want to make sure public meeting gets discussed and clarified as to how the process works. So. And I want to thank Mary Michael for the efforts that she puts in and making sure all that takes place.
You're welcome. I added a slide this morning, so you were just with a screenshot of the meetings page.
We might have pulled the wrong
Okay.
presentation from the SharePoint.
If you look at it, feel free to reference. Pat has the notes that I sent with the process about how the documents automatically move through that page. So if you want to make a change to have the agenda stay longer, that can happen. There's about 24 to 48 hours business days following the meeting that it's not on the site until the executive assistant posts it with board packet and any materials that get submitted. So for example, if you have a guest speaker or presenter that brings a USB drive here, it takes us 1 to 2 business days to get that loaded onto the site. So
I guess it's just legally. We're fine, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, we've been doing this for 3 years and it's never come up. So that's why it did come up and I just want to make sure it's addressed appropriately, that's all.
So I
We've
think,
been doing everything
yeah.
fine and correctly and legally. It's just, again, the question came up, want to make sure that we had the appropriate answer.
Any questions for Pat or Anne Marie? All right. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the executive director and financial report.
Move to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, have to be reports approved. And since we moved our other business to June,
Right.
there's no other business before the board. The meeting is adjourned.